How to build a commercial real estate empire. In today's interview style episode, I'm going to be talking to Ken Van Liu of Global Real Estate Strategies. Ken Van Liu is actually an old friend of mine that we had connected many years ago, and now we're connecting back, and he is a real estate genius. Ken used to build commercial real estate skyscrapers in New York City and has made tons of money in the process. He's going to be teaching us a simple way of how you get this done and the mindset required to do so. So let's talk with Ken Van Liu so you can find out how you can do it too. Let's go.
Noel. Yeah, she can fix that. If you gotta get it done, all you need to do it better. Well, she can fix that. Yeah, she can fix that. Investment to get back, trying to get a big stack. She can fix that. Let's fix that.
Okay, I am so excited to have here today Ken Van Liu. He's actually someone from my blast from the past that has helped me so much with my business, so much with real estate. You've done some amazing and incredible things in real estate. You have a new book. I'm gonna just get right to it, and we are going to tell people, and I want you to share your story. Tell people what it is that you are doing in real estate and building wealth that is so incredible.
Thank you so much, Noel. It's so great to connect with you. We're bonded with our twins that we both have.
Yes.
And I just love it. And it's so exciting to be here. But what I really do is just implement my modern wealth building formula on a daily basis. And, that allows you to buy real estate with little or no money down. And I just bought this unbelievable $6 million mortgage that was in foreclosure for $2.7 million, and then syndicated it for $3.7 and ended up signing a lease with CVS for $580,000 a year, which blew that up to $11 million value. And the rest of the development, which includes a 100-year-old restaurant restoration, 36 affordable units, 20,000 square foot of office, and 20 market rates, I got for free.
Wow. Okay, Ken, see, here we go. This is why I just love you so much and where we always connect. You said like 10 different things that you've done, and that was the first thing that really just connected you to me. Like, you were doing real estate, I was doing it on this really small level, and you're doing these major big deals, and you're basically kind of telling me like I could play in a bigger space. And so talk to people about how you got into these millions of dollars of deals without using your own money, because most people think that if they have no money, they have to start, with these junk properties. So Tell us about that.
I started and I had a background in construction. I wasn't the sharpest tool in the shed. It took me 6 years to get out of engineering school. I had failed the PE test 5 times, but I won an award on site development my senior year in college, and it planted a seed. And years later, I found myself in construction, building skyscrapers in New York City. And I didn't know anything about real estate, but looking out, from those skyscrapers, wondering like, wow, maybe one day I could figure out how to do this. And sure enough, one day I developed 240 Park Avenue and a lot of buildings in between. It totaled out about $1.3 billion, and just really, really exciting. But what I wanted to do when I got into real estate and, developed a $17 million project with other people's experience and other people's money was to really see on how it applies to residential real estate and how everybody can use it. And the fascinating thing, in 2016, I had a company called Flipping USA, and we applied the formula and did 137 residential deals. So I really found it to be extraordinary across the board, because even you hear a lot of people say you can wholesale, you don't need a lot of money. I believe, just the way from my experience, not saying it from theory, you always could use a little extra money when you want to scale things, when you want to accelerate, takes pressure off. And I just found that the modern wealth building formula works. And the one thing I always tell my students is, they go, well, you build skyscrapers, you're too intimidating. And I say, it's really just like stacking houses. So if you can figure you're building 30 houses on top of each other, it's a cycle. So when you build a building, you start with the foundation. In New York City, you see this big green fence go up, you don't see anything for a while. And then all of a sudden you see a floor appear every 4 days, and you see the skin go on. And that's how it happens. But in the nutshell, you could that's how it started,
I love it. And so here's the thing, because you said, again, Ken, you're amazing. So when I first met you, of course, I was just, when I started in real estate, I was this lowly wholesaler, and I kind of did something called deal compounding, where I did wholesaling, then as my money grew, I do fix and flips, and then I did rental properties and so forth, and it has just grown. And so when you and I connected on each other, you were telling me about these skyscrapers. I was immediately intrigued, and of course, we've shared so much, and you're like, a friend from the past. Quickly just to explain to people, because it is really an easy concept that seems difficult. How does a person get into being a developer of a skyscraper?
Yeah, and at first, I guess you could say, you've heard the expression trying to get your arms around an 800-pound gorilla. This is, a 1,200-pound gorilla. So, it's one of those things, my theory is just, never give up. And as you get your arms around it, you start to realize that the principles are a lot the same, and what I broke it down to try to simplify it is it's finding, funding, and facilitating the process. The facilitation process on the development side is much more extensive. Like, for example, now I just submitted, extensive engineering drawings that go through an approval process. There's a lot of finesse going on. And once you get the approval, you're going gangbusters. You got to break ground right away. Then you slow down a little bit. So there's a lot more on the facilitation side. There's a lot of different players. It's not necessarily just a simple transaction, but the facilitation applies and it creates what I call as a top-down thinking. So when you look at facilitation and coming from the top-down thinking skyscraper approach, what you're learning applies to anything facilitating, whether it's an investment property, residential, development, et cetera. And once you apply that application to funding, it's what I looked at the differentiation for funding. So if you're raising money for residential, you're going through the same process. The frequency of the conversation, I believe, is always based on the presentation. You always hear location, location, location. In funding, if you present yourself like you have a little Wall Street package, no matter what size project, you're going to gravitate. You're going to have gravitational pull that's going to bring people to you. You're going to gravitate that money to you. And once you gravitate money to you and you succeed and, success leaves clues, they're going to give you more money next time. And then I went in reverse here, but then that leads, to finding, wholesaling, you hear bird dogging. Well, it's similar, it's just, when I'm looking for residential, multifamily in other states, we have relationship managers, right? And they go and they get boots on the ground and they establish relationships. And we go in looking for one thing, but we find other things, based on what we've learned in Landmark. You can create any possibility through communication, right? That's what it all happens. So the finding. So really, I've broken it down where it's find, fund, facilitate. And it applies across the board for any type of real estate. And the modern wealth building formula is a blanket which shows you how to structure deals using other people's money and other people's experience, where your rates of returns are just in the 100 percentiles. It's pretty crazy.
It is crazy. You are amazing, Ken. So, because we got to go into this, because this is something that you taught me. You may not realize this, but you taught me something when we were talking about finding, funding, and facilitating some of these deals, and that it wasn't much more difficult on a smaller level than it was on a bigger level. So explain that to people. Like, if they just want to maybe skip over, doing little deals, how would they go to these bigger deals, and how would you suggest getting into and learning all of this?
Yeah, great question. And that was where I was. Here I entered this development scenario, and I'm like, okay, what do I do? And the one thing I coined, because it was many years ago, it was back like in the actually later 90s, but early 90s, there was the dream team, the Olympic dream team. So I coined that, and I created a dream team in 1999 when I was doing my first development. And it started out with me getting slapped out of the building department when I went down there, like, sir, you can't come in here and solicit. I'm like, well, I'm just trying to find out an architect that can do some drawings, or like an attorney that can represent me. And then it kind of hit me in the head. I'm like, who was a previous counsel for the board? And I was like, found out, well, it's Bill Savo. And then once I called Bill Savo, I said, who's the favorite son in town to do the architecture? And that led to a traffic guy and a planning and an architect and an engineer. And I started to build this dream team. And what I really found is that people want to help you, because I didn't know a lot then. And I acted vulnerable. I'm like, hey, this is what I know. I know I'm a civil engineer, but I don't know how to put all the pieces together. I read this book that told me, anybody can put a syndication together. Just put all the pieces together. I was good at, playing sports and teamwork and, perseverance, and, I had those skill sets, but, building the dream team and mirroring and matching people, I believe in is part of a process where you have to mirror and match somebody, and you have to, really get clear on what your outcome is. And then, you start the process of measuring and working towards your goals, measuring, rewarding yourself, and just, rinse and repeat.
Whoa, Ken Van Liu just made an amazing point right there. He did not start off with all of this success in building skyscrapers and knowing everything to do. He was just an engineer that had a vision, and he sought out and found the people that he needed to put his deal together. You can't be afraid to go out and try new things and start talking to new people and asking questions and maybe even calling people that you may be intimidated by. As Ken points out, nothing is given to you. You have to go forward and start making moves and doing things that may be a little bit scary for you, but this is how you really get to success. It doesn't matter what your gender is, what your race is, how old you are, any of those things. You gotta just be bold and start going for your thing, whatever it may be. Now let's get back to this episode. You're actually touching on something that I think people are super interested in, because the true concept of what you're doing, of course, is like putting together these syndications. So explain to people what that is and some of the successful syndications with real estate that you've put together, because you do this stuff so easily. I don't think you're realizing that people have no idea what you're even talking about. So talk us through syndications and some of them that you put together that you thought were fairly, pretty easy.
Yeah. So, and that word, I didn't even know what that word meant when I read the book. I'm sorry, but it's basically bringing people together. When I started, I didn't have money. I had a dream. I had the idea, and when you become enrolling in your passion, people believe in you. And it really came down to bringing people together. I was on a golf course that I shouldn't have been on. My mother-in-law, said, go play in this golf outing. I'm like, I can't join a country club. But as I was playing, I started daydreaming, and, I found out there was an executive special. So I tell my wife, can I join? And the fourth round, I meet this guy and I tell him my story. And he says, I'll lend you $100,000, but I want to be part of your company. And go ahead and start. And it started like that. I quit my $175,000 a year job back then and said, I'm going to live off $5,000 a month. My wife's like, you're crazy. I'm like, nah, I have my taxation filtration system. I'm going to C Corp, S Corp, LLCs. My accountant said, I'm not going to jail. There's a fine line, that type of thing, and,
been there.
and it worked, and you always hear it. I don't want to give you the cliche, but the most important thing is the 6 inches of real estate between your ears.
Yeah.
And, if you can control your state,
yeah.
There's a lot of chessboard playing, and there's a lot of sharks, when you're in this business. So you got to, keep your state, manage it, and just move the
keep your stuff together. It's so, okay. So Ken, we kind of go way back. We met each other at an event. We connected. We were talking. You were talking to me about these skyscrapers, and I was doing this other thing. And so we really didn't connect. But one thing that I think we immediately connected on, and we both realized, was that in order to be successful in real estate or anything that was bigger, we had to kind of work on our mindset. And it was really more so about not being afraid to speak to people that maybe you were intimidated by or seemed at a higher level than you. Obviously people looking at you and I, we're very different ages and genders and all these other things, but we connected immediately because it was our mindset. So kind of talk us through some of the things that you've worked on to overcome some of those fears, to go join a country club and not necessarily have all the money for it and things like that, and how it then turned into something amazing, because I'm sure people would want to hear that.
Yeah, I had twins like you, and there was a time where I used to laugh at myself because I'd be coming out of the store and I'd have so much formula and diapers, the carriage would be overflowing, and I. Yes,
people do not understand, like with twins, like you have all this 5 thin cartons of diapers, and they're like, why do you have all this stuff?
My mindset was like, I need to go to work on Monday mornings. But after a while, I was like, okay, this job thing isn't going to work, because I want to give my twins a really cool future. And, when you put your twins through college and they get married, just the feeling, it's just unbelievable. It's great. It brings tears to your eyes. Like, what did I do? Did I deserve this? You pinch yourself, and, it took years of personal development, my self-mastery, and not creating so many stories in my head. It's easy to, create all kinds of thoughts around things that are happening, but I realize
Yeah.
that thoughts aren't true. They're just a thought.
That's right.
You have to kind of let it roll off your back and not necessarily react to every thought.
That's right.
You have a lot of things going on. You realize, you always hear people say, you have to have a balanced life. Life is not balanced. When you have twins, sometimes it's like all family. Sometimes you're closing a deal. It's all real estate, so, this balancing is great, but it doesn't exist. What I found is really the repetition of a morning ritual, getting up
Good point.
at a certain point. And, my first thing is I move for about 50 minutes. I then meditate. I then, I then fuel my body. Then I prep and, and then I start to help people, and then I block my time. So I'm very time blocked out. And it's really always about my three things are, self-mastery, process mastery, and influence mastery, so those are the things that I'm working on now. And that's all part of the unblinded mastery. We're all blind, just starting to see,
Yeah. No, I love everything that you said, Ken, because that was like I said, one of the things we immediately connected on. Because even when we met, obviously you were way ahead of me, and it was even me being vulnerable for a moment. I was maybe intimidated by you and some of the things that you had done, and it seemed bigger. But I was working on myself to be able to go up to new people and start having new conversations with people that were maybe ahead of me in this area or that area, or had more money than I did, and this, that, and the other. And then it was so funny because you and you were there already, so you still connected with me. So it wasn't as intimidating as people would think to go try and start talking to new people that are above you or where where you want to be. Would you agree?
No, I agree. And I think I told you that day, because I was sensing that you were feeling that way, that I put my pants on just like you, one leg at a time, and, I came from very little, but when you come from love and you pay it forward, good things happen to you, and it's just been a blessing, that I had a chance to touch you, and that now we get to do some more things together, and, maybe we'll even build a building one day.
That's right. Yes, absolutely. Whoa, Ken just made an amazing point. And you'll start to notice in the interview that me and Ken, we took very different paths with our real estate, him with commercial real estate and me with short-term rentals. But it really doesn't matter how big or how small or which thing that you're deciding to do. You really just need to go for it with what it is that you're doing and know that you have to have the right mindset no matter where you are. Again, don't be intimidated by anyone that's bigger or smaller than you. Just worry about your own self and have the right mindset for your vision. That is truly what Ken is teaching in this episode. Now let's get back to this interview. And so I feel this is a great point, Ken, because obviously I think our audience would agree that there's times when you don't feel that you can go up to people and they're not accessible. So talk about how people reach out to you and how some of the things that you're doing to share all of this great information that you have.
Yeah, I'm so glad, because I'm still, I was with Robert Allen this weekend, and he was my mentor.
That's exciting.
I read his book. I was 17. I was just about ready to, it was 1979. I graduated high school, and I couldn't afford a car. And I was like, how am I going to ever buy a property? And then, 17 years later, I built a $17 million project with no money. So it was pretty exciting.
So I know that you are a wealth of knowledge. How can people reach out to you and learn all these great information? Because I've seen some of your courses and things like that. Tell us about you and how to get this information, because you teach so well.
Yeah. So thank you so much for that. And I try to keep it pretty simple to get in touch with me. If you go to my website, which is kenvanliu.com, there's a Discover Now button. If you'd like, you could schedule a 45-minute strategy call. No obligations at all. And in about 2 weeks, I'm going to be coming out with the Modern Wealth Building Formula book. It's going to be free and just pay for shipping. And that link's also going to be on the website. So the easiest way, there's some free gifts on the website, and I'm there to pay it forward. You want to give me a call? We can talk about whatever you'd like.
Okay, Ken, so obviously we met maybe 3-4 years ago at an event. We connected, and then somehow you've been out doing all of these amazing things. I've been doing some things my own self, and now we've kind of just connected back with one another. So talk me through how you feel some of this has gone and what you've been doing in the interim. What have you been doing over the past few years, and then how did we end up back here? Because I think people should know.
I've had a journey in all areas of my life, spiritually, health-wise. I weigh 172 pounds. You know, I haven't weighed this.
Yeah, you are very fit. You're much fitter than when I saw you last.
When I went to the Tony Robbins event in 2001, I was 248 pounds. So my whole health has transformed. My metabolic age is 38 years old. You know, celebrated my 33rd year of marriage. My wife retired 18 months ago. We've just been blessed together, kind of hanging out. My children, you know, I've been able to just connect at such a high level. I have, you know, the twins are 28 now. My daughter just married a doctor, graduated valedictorian. My son just got orders to become a reconnaissance officer. My youngest daughter just got engaged for Christmas. So, you know, a lot of things going on at home, church, and real estate. You know, my global real estate strategy, we not only have the 24-acre real estate that we're acreage farm that we're developing 13 acres in Bedminster, 75 units, 133 square foot of storage. I have another site I'm doing 7 acres. I have another site that I'm doing 12 acres. So we have a lot of development in the pipeline. We're coming out with all kinds of courses: Financial Freedom Protocol, Real Estate Mastery University. And I'd love to talk to you about my micro development course. Maybe we do that together. That's fixing everything on steroids. And just it's going to be a real exciting year. I've just been strategizing. Last year was crazy with the pandemic. And, you know, still doing my personal development, my self-mastery. I've been working along with Sean Callaghy, my dear friend, and working on that, paying it forward, and just loving life, you know, just growing in all areas, you know.
Yeah, I can see it. I can see it. You look great. You have amazing things going on in your career. You were amazing when I met you, and now you've gone even further. So it was so amazing that I've at least been able to keep jogging and not let you go too far ahead of me.
No, we're together, man.
Still, at least you'll still take my call and come and do my show and all of these other awesome things. Wow, what an amazing interview with Ken Van Liu, and I have a special gift just for you. I have written a brand new book called Real Estate Millionaire Secrets, and I want to give this book away to you absolutely free as my gift. Ken shared so much great information, and he was someone that I met when I did not have a lot of confidence, and now I have been able to be very successful in real estate and bring Ken back on my show. This will share with you all of what's possible when you just buckle down and start going for your dream. Check out my book at noellsfreebook.com. That's Noelle, Noelle with an S, noellsfreebook.com. You can get my book absolutely free. You just cover the shipping and the handling. I just want to make sure that you have all of the resources, all of the tools, and all of the knowledge that you need to be successful. This is Noelle, to your success.